we lived and breathed this trial for 6 weeks, but your legal team, lived and breathed this trial for years. This was filed in 2019. You guys have been working. I looked through the court file. There are hundreds of documents back and forth in this case file. So take us back a little bit to how you got involved in this case and how you maybe approached this trial because you were representing Johnny Depp.
Well, I'd had the pleasure and honor of representing Johnny in a couple of other cases against his former manager and against his former attorney. So when this case came to be thought of, he looked to me and my team for that, and that was a great honor and privilege. And we knew that it was the most important case that Johnny had ever been involved with. So we gave a lot of thought to the personnel we were going to bring to bear. And we assembled what I think is the best team our firm could muster. And we had people from our Orange County office, people from our New York office, people from our Boston office, and people from our office here in D.C.
It's dozens of attorneys, the whole team, like an army, I think is what I called them, of attorneys. And
small army.
Small army. And you delegated certain roles, but this was a lot of unglamorous or unspectacular preparation, I think, in preparing for this case. Give us an idea, if you can, the amount of hours that your team put in.
It was a massive amount of hours.
I think that's just how he talks. Yeah, I think this is one of his idiosyncrasies. So there are some people that talk like that, but they don't really have Tourette's or anything.
And there were also,
the
years leading up, and you're right, we filed it on March 1, 2019. Ms. Heard's team had at least 3 sets of dispositive motions seeking dismissal of the claims on various legal grounds. So that was something we had to contend with. There was also a lot of...
Yeah, like when he talks, I'm saying that I think that's how he talks. When he talks like that, he blinks like that too. I think that's just how he is.
A lot of discovery, a lot of document discovery, and many, many depositions.
How involved was he in the preparation of this trial and the day-to-day of the testimony?
Quite a bit. He wanted to know exactly what we were doing, who we were speaking to. He had a lot, without disclosing attorney-client privilege, he had a very heavy input into the strategy. He's a super bright and thoughtful person. So it was very helpful to have a client so involved in the process.
And both Johnny and Amber took the stand in this trial. Let's start with Johnny's testimony. How did you help him prepare for the days he was on the stand?
Mostly it was Jessica Myers, who's a very talented attorney in our New York office. We tried to match up attorney with witness. And it was our collective thought that Jessica and Johnny were a good match. They're both very quick, they're very, very smart and diligent, and it really worked out well. So most of the preparation was one-on-one, Jessica and Johnny, or with Camille or me. We brought Wayne Dennison from our Boston office to come.
Wayne Dennison! Get Wayne Dennison in here. I miss Wayne Dennison. Get him in here.
And play the heavy, and a role he played very well.
Great cross-examiner, by the way.
Well, I think Wayne is the best. He's terrific. So he came in to play the part of Ben Rottenborn, cross-examiner, because we anticipated they would put a man on Johnny and try to get him riled up. So I think Johnny was well prepared. But as to the substance of his testimony, that was all Johnny.
You keep calling Wayne the wizard killer.
We, of course, had suggestions, as you do with any witness, but the words were all his.
On that cross, because there were moments that went viral from that cross-examination.
Thank you.
So I'll just stop talking.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to be respectful of the court's time and the jury's time.
Sorry?
So cute to
I just said I want to be respectful of the court's time and the jury's time, and I trust that you do too. So.
Well, I don't feel like I'm wasting anyone's time, sir.
Could you pull up Exhibit 408, please?
And Ben Rottenborn really inundating the jury, everyone, with, like you've mentioned, these text messages, these audios, trying to paint a darker picture of the beloved movie star. What advice did you give him to handle that, to just agree, with Rottenborn? What did you tell him?
Well, we just told him to keep his cool, and he did. And I think to some extent, hopefully we inoculated the jury a little bit of that.
Wait, do you guys think Roddenborn is going to ever give an interview? Where did Roddenborn and Nadelhoff go? Where do they go? You think they just like dipped out? Was like, bye, Elaine, you're going to do all the work.
We always out here, Corgis mods, Corgis mods.
Thank you for the free sub. Hello, Nia.
Were you watching the jury during this? Did you have any observations of how they took him in?
We tried to be careful about that. We didn't want the jury to think that we were being overly intrusive, and they were hard to read when you did look at them. But I thought, and he's a very effective examiner, but I thought the repetition of bad texts didn't resonate that much, because in none of those texts was there any admission or suggestion that he had done any of these things.
Yeah, and they went over 70,000 text messages. 70,000 text messages. I love JD's legal team vibe. They seem so professional and also very nice people. Yeah, we already watched Ben's interview, Camille and Ben's interview on the other shows. And yeah, to me, they were completely professional.
So during the trial, there was a lot of unflattering, as kind of mentioned, exposure into Johnny and Amber's relationship. At any point, you know, when you're reading through the discovery that you mentioned or the depositions that you're...
Wait, any news about Elaine rescheduling for her interview yet? Did anyone hear anything, or did they just give up? No, not even close to Dr. Curry. Compliment, but not even close. I love Dr. Curry, though.
Conducting. Did you think of asking Johnny, are you really sure that this is what you want to do?
We'd crossed that Rubicon before, and we knew that there were some unflattering texts, mostly done after the allegations were made by Ms. Heard. So we thought that those needed to be brought out affirmatively by our side and put into context. So we did that. I mean, we never tried to portray Mr. Depp as a saint. He's a man who owns his faults. We didn't want to hide those from the jury. He took ownership of his struggles with alcohol and drugs, and he took ownership of texts that were private texts, never intended to be seen by the world or by Ms. Heard, and in no way.
Yeah, you know, I wonder who coached Amber Heard, because whoever coached her, I mean, they had to have coached her, especially on like cross-examination and stuff. Maybe they were being like a lot nicer to her than Camille Vasquez was, but they should have went ham on her, because like her cross-examination was really bad. And I don't know, I feel like they should have been like, hey, you know, I know there are some things you want to own up on, but at least own up to like the small things, because if you don't own up to the small things, then the jury, they're just not going to find you credible. Like there were just like some small little things where it was very obvious that she was lying about, you know, and other bigger things too as well. But like she didn't really own up to anything at all.
But he really took accountability for that, and he thought about it very carefully before we filed the complaint.
Okay, I'm running out of time, but I have to ask Amber Heard on the stand.
They're running out of time.
She spent several days. She talked about really horrible allegations. The jury ultimately didn't believe her. Why do you think that is?
I don't want to speculate. I think there was a contrast between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard in terms of taking accountability. I think Mr. Depp took accountability, and Ms. Heard, there seemed to be very few subjects on which she was willing to make any kind of concessions, and I think there may have been a credibility gap.
Here, real quick, you went viral with your fist pump for Kate Moss. Take us back to that moment. What was going through your mind?
When I heard Ms. Heard say that she punched Mr. Depp because she was afraid that he would push her sister,
oh man, that fist pump moment was so hilarious.
Whitney, down the stairs like he pushed Kate Moss, I lost my composure for a moment and did a fist bump, because I knew that that was not going to be corroborated by Ms. Moss. And fortunately, Ms. Moss, who had never testified in any proceeding, came forward affirmatively to say that that was not the case. John.
Yeah, don't forget, Kate Moss, she came out of the woodwork for this, okay, to get her 15 minutes of fame. Y'all, don't forget about that.
He had never pushed her, had never hit her, had never kicked her.
And how important was that testimony to your case, do you think?
I thought it was very important, because this is a case about credibility, and that went directly to credibility.
Were there any turning points in this trial as you look back on it to say, oh, that was where really momentum turned our way?
I thought there were three. I think one was the totality of Johnny's testimony the totality of Ms. Heard's testimony, and then finally, in closing, when Camille and I had an opportunity to kind of recapitulate and put it all in context.
The appeal, what can you tell us?
Oh man, I feel like there's a lot of turning points. Sorry, I keep pausing this, but I feel like there's a lot of like, oh my fucking God moments. A couple of them, in my opinion, I would say, I think Dr. Curry did a pretty good job, but it wasn't like blown away out of the waters. I feel like, the Warner Brothers executive, that was a really good one. Amber Heard, when she was being cross-examined, Amber Heard rebuttal cross-examination as well. And were there any other like WTF moments you guys can think of? The TMZ. Oh yeah, the TMZ guy was pretty good as well. Dr. Mommy Curry. Yeah, they did. Oh man, they did such a good job. Dr. Smeagol. Wonder what Dr. Smeagol's up to now. Did you guys see Spicy Draco has like an action figure that someone made? That was funny. Okay, pause. Play. We're gonna play again.
The Heard's team wants to appeal this case. Do you plan to fight it? Does Depp really want, $8.35 million from her?
As Johnny said in his testimony, and we said in closing, this is not about money for Johnny anyway. This is about restoring his reputation and getting his life back. So it's not about money. As far as the appeal, I have no idea what grounds they're going to allege, but we don't think that there are any viable basis for appeal.
And there is one judgment against Johnny, and that's appealable, if you wanted to.
That would be, to the extent there's no global resolution, that's something that we'd have to consider.
I have to talk about you and Camille Vasquez really skyrocketing into the spotlight. What has that been like? Have you ever expected anything like that?
I didn't expect anything like that. I don't think Camille did either, but she's handling it wonderfully. And
can you send our congratulations on to her for being promoted to partner?
I will.
And is there anything else that you would like to say?
That's it?
Anything else that I haven't asked you that you want to make sure you say?
Like an hour long.
No, we just wanted to thank you all, and we wanted to thank the jury and the court and the court personnel for all the work that they did, and we're very appreciative. And Mr. Depp really wanted to thank everybody.
Sure. And thank you for your time again.
Thank you.
I appreciate it so much. I have like 3 more pages, but that's okay.
We've got more of the interview. We're playing it in a little different order than it happened in real time, so we've got much more ahead this hour.
I want to talk about Heard's lead attorney, Elaine Bredhoff. She made some post-verdict interviews as well last week. In fact, I was supposed to sit down with her. She had to cancel last minute, something urgent in court. We haven't yet rescheduled, but that offer is obviously still out there for her. But I want to give you the opportunity to address some of the things that she did say last week to the media. She claims that your team demonized Amber Heard and suppressed evidence.
She also said that Johnny Depp's lawyers were not playing fair.
What's your response?
I think it's disappointing that...
Thanks, Derek Tam. Thank you. JD's legal team keeps outclassing Amber Heard both inside and outside the classroom. Do you think Johnny would have still won if he had Elaine? And I think Roddenborn, even though I don't like him, he's a little bit... I didn't really like his personality, I feel like. I think Roddenborn was a really good lawyer. I think he did a really good job with cross-examining. I think he did a good job at trying to get under like the witnesses' skins and like get them to act up a little bit. Elaine, on the other hand, I feel like we gave a lot of excuses for Elaine because like we've kind of started feeling bad for her. And I don't know, when I saw Elaine, I was like, oh, she's like a sweet old lady, you know, she's just doing her job. But like, yeah, I think like ever since she came on the interview, I was like, okay, never mind. I don't know if I can support Elaine. I don't know if I can support her anymore. You better stop that bullshit. Elaine is just... I don't know. I just feel bad, you know? I just feel bad. But I don't really like Elaine right now. Her and I were not really in a happy place, you know? I'm a little bit salty at her. I don't like what she said on the interview. It was complete bullshit. And then also, I think Elaine was hired in 2016. For some reason, I thought she was only hired in for the UK trial. If she was hired back in 2016, then she is privy to all the bullshit things that Amber Heard has done with the TMZ stuff. I know she definitely knew about the donation stuff. So yeah, I know I shouldn't feel bad for Elaine, but fuck, man. I guess I kind of do, but yeah.
She would say something like that. With respect to suppression of evidence, there was a lot more evidence that came in Fairfax County than ever came in London. And I took that as not being complimentary of our judge, who was a wonderful judge. I don't think I just think that's an improper characterization. As far as demonization, the cross-examination of Ms. Heard that was done, I believe, beautifully by Camille Vasquez was not intended to demonize her. It really was predicated on her own words. So the cross-examination was based on statements that Ms. Heard had made.
Yeah, I mean, the demonization thing, honestly, Amber Heard did it to herself, man. She did it to herself. There were so many times where she like snapped. There's a lot of time where she slipped up. And I think she did it to herself. Like Camille Vasquez, yeah, she was a very effective and good cross-examiner, but the demons were already there, okay? The demons were already there. There was nothing that Camille did that I thought was like demonizing her. She already fucking did it to herself, in my opinion.
And presenting her with some audios that she herself had made and really asking for her explanation. I don't think that's demonization. I think that's cross-examination.
Right. She points to medical records, text messages from Stephen Deuters, things like that. Would that have made a difference? Can you enlighten us on?
I don't believe any of the evidence that was excluded, and there was evidence excluded on both sides, and you're very familiar. There are rules of evidence that apply. Not everything comes in.
Right. And suppression may not be the best word, too, that she uses, right? It's inadmissible because of hearsay or it's not relevant.
Exactly. And I think Her Honor, played it right down the middle, was very consistent in her rulings, and I think it's an improper characterization, and perhaps she just misspoke.
Sure. Okay, another thing, Elaine said that this verdict is a huge setback for women. Thinking about reporting domestic violence would send a message that they cannot win. What's your team's response?
I think that's entirely untrue. And Mr. Depp would want people to come forward if they were victims of domestic abuse. So I don't think this is a setback at all for women or men who have been victimized by domestic abuse. And I think this is a victory for truth. I think I don't think it's a setback at all.
Elaine also pointed to the jury as possibly even being tainted by the massive amount of media. This was all over social media, as you probably know, and even blaming the cameras in the courtroom for possibly tainting this verdict.
Just blame fucking everything. It's everyone's fault.
What do you think?
That was almost more disappointing than her statement about evidence being kept out, because I construed that as an affront to the jury. I mean, the jury took an oath, as you know, not to look at social media, and there's no basis that the jury violated their oath. And these are people, and you saw them every day, who gave up 6 weeks of their lives, of their work, of their family, to pay attention not only to the evidence that Mr. Depp put forward, but also to the evidence Ms. Heard put forward. And to cast a shadow on them, I think, was really unfortunate and disappointing.
Yeah, there was a statement even recently that Heard's team released. I'm sure you've also read this, but I want to get your take. The spokesperson for Amber says it is as unseemly as it is unprofessional that Johnny Depp's legal team has chosen to do a victory lap for setting back decades of how women can be treated in the courtroom. What's next? A movie deal and merchandising. That was the latest statement. What's your response to that?
The response to that was one day after the verdict, I believe it was one day after the verdict, Ms. Bredehoft appeared on national programs to set forth Ms. Heard's position. So this is a response to that.
She was the PR mouthpiece for Team Heard.
When the verdict came in, our hearts were in our throats. We were hopeful, but not presumptuous. So we were really sweating it out.
It took nearly 13 hours for the jury to reach this verdict. And as an attorney, I know that can be, really anxiousness going through what you were thinking. Can you take us to that moment? Were you having any doubts in those hours of deliberations?
We were anxious, but we cut the anxiety by playing a ferocious game of Monopoly in our room. So it distracted us sufficiently, but we were still thinking about the verdict.
Sure.
I honestly think because of her personality disorder, until she gets help or gets her health under control, I don't think she can own up or take accountability for her behavior and abusive actions. I wonder if her meeting up with Dr. Don Hughes made her even more resistant against wanting to change. Because she's like, oh, well, I had another psychologist that I met with, Dr. Dawn Hughes, and she said, I am completely fine. I wonder if that did more damage to her. God, man, I really wish, like, how did they find Dr. Dawn Hughes? Was Dr. Dawn Hughes already like a psychiatrist, was already working with her lawyers or something? Because I'm just really confused about what Dr. Dawn Hughes is saying. Dr. Spiegel, like, can you just pay people to say whatever the fuck you want? Like, it's really crazy to me. Or like, how many psychiatrists did they go through in order to get the one that will actually say something that, you know, that's unfavorable to them? Because I thought like the court would just appoint like a psychiatrist. That way you can't like shop through like, you know, someone that will just pay and then just say whatever the fuck you want. Amber, what? She used to be a stripper. Laughed my ass off. Maybe Elaine was a stripper. She used to strip. Oh, I mean, hey, you used to strip. Ain't nothing wrong with stripping. But I didn't know about that. Are you sure? Or is that just like a random internet rumor?
You guys approached the bench with the judge. What did she say in that moment? Did you know what was happening in that moment or what the verdict may have been?
We didn't, and we were hoping that she might give us some clues.
Okay, so if Elaine opens an OnlyFans, don't lie, who's going to get on that? Who's going to get on that train? Hey, you know, I have friends who are on OnlyFans, and they make pretty good damn money, so, you know, maybe she wants. Go ahead.
But she's played it straight down the line and said that the jury had reached a verdict as to one of the statements, but had not filled out a damage, and she was apprising counsel for both sides of her intent to orally instruct them to put in a damages number. But we didn't know whether that was a statement on the counterclaim or one of the affirmative three statements in Mr. Depp's case.
But you knew someone had at least won a statement against the other.
Knew that
Did you have a good feeling?
We didn't dare have a good feeling. We felt really good about
because you don't want to jinx yourself, man.
how the evidence came in, and we thought Johnny did a magnificent job finally having his say. But the jury was very hard, at least very hard for us to read.
Out this verdict. It's a split verdict, right? I mean, an overwhelming win for your team. The jury clearly believing Johnny Depp's version of events, but they did also find at least one of those statements in the countersuit said by Adam Waldman, the attorney for Johnny Depp, was defamatory towards Amber Heard. How do you make sense of that?
Well, I think it actually is consistent, and I would agree with your characterization. This is an overwhelming victory for Johnny as to all three of his statements, and as to two of the three statements at issue in the counterclaims, in which Mr. Waldman characterized Ms. Heard's claims as a hoax. I think that as to the one that the jury found liability on, it was a convoluted statement with a lot of moving pieces in it about what Amber's friends did on that particular night, May 21, 2016. So that was really very difficult to prove. So that was not a total surprise, nor do I think it was in any way inconsistent with what the jury did in affirming Johnny's claims and in knocking out the other two.
Let's talk about Johnny.
Oh, man, I miss Ben Chew.
He wasn't there in the courtroom during the reading of the verdict. Should he have been there?
He wanted to be there, but he had a prior commitment with Jeff Beck, who's a close friend of his, to play in England, so he was torn. But he is a man who fulfills his obligations, and he had an obligation to Jeff Beck. But he made very clear in his statement, which you probably saw, that he had profound respect for the court and for the jury and for all of you who spent so much time there in Fairfax County. So his not being there was in no way intended to be disrespectful, to the contrary.
Right, and how did he find out being across the pond?
I believe that he was in a pub watching it, and we weren't, obviously we couldn't share that moment with him, but we did FaceTime him, and he looked like the weight of the world was off of his shoulders. And
yeah. Tell us more about his reaction, and I see you becoming emotional. You became emotional during closings, too.
Yeah. I mean, his life was on the line, so we felt very strongly, and we felt strongly that he did not do anything remotely like this. And we all felt that way, or we wouldn't have been working on it. So.
And I could see that every day. You know, I was there in the courtroom. I watched how you interacted with your client. You know, as an attorney, that's so important. You could see the bond that you have.
He's a great guy. I mean, he's got a terrific sense of humor, and the fact that he could show that when the worst possible details about his life were being exhumed on an international stage. I mean,
I was
he
getting a little
knew
teary-eyed right there.
when he had us file this case that there was going to
I
be
agree, Ingy.
embarrassing, humiliating information
You're
about
crying,
his
I'm
personal
not.
life, and yet he did this anyway. And it was because the charge against him, he felt, was so heinous and something with which his children should not have to live.
Right, and considering that, did you also have to sort of prep him for the worst as well in the outcome of this case?
We did, and I think he was quite cognizant of that in light of what happened in London. And we went through a mediation, and the mediator was candid about defamation cases, as you know, are very hard to prevail on, even under the best of circumstances. So this, yeah, I think he went into it eyes wide open.
You kind of took my next question. Was he aware of what a long shot this was? Because, like you said, the
Possibly.
law for actual malice and defamation, especially from a plaintiff, is difficult. It's a high burden.
It's a very high burden. I think he understood that, but I think he felt that he had no other choice but to try to get the truth out and to have his say. And I think irrespective of the verdict, I think he was pleased that he had a fair opportunity to be heard. So I think either way, I think he had the satisfaction of having his say.
And it's been about a week now. Have you talked to him recently? How's he doing?
He seems to be doing fine. He's quite busy. He's doing shows with Jeff Beck, and I think he's finally able to breathe. One of
Yeah, he's doing what he loves. He's fucking doing music. That's amazing.
his friends said that he hasn't seen Johnny smile like this
Yeah, it's
since
janky chai.
2016.
Have a great day. Take care. Thanks for popping on in. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Thanks for chatting. And I hope you guys have a great night. Take care. And yeah, I stream on Twitch, so go on Twitch instead. All right, y'all. Take care. Bye. I'll see you guys later.